This video is part 2 in a series that provides an overview of the National Folklore Archive Initiative, NFAI, and an introduction to the function and content of the Folklore Collections Database, FCD. Video 2. Meet the Folklore Collections Database. The Folklore Collections Database, or FCD, is an online resource for cataloging and providing access to information about folklore archives held by public repositories in the United States. This video provides an overview of the function and content of the Folklore Collections Database. The Folklore Collections Database is the keystone of the National Folklore Archive Initiative. For researchers and the general public, it serves as a central, online location to discover collections of folklore research materials held by repositories across the country. Materials in the database are searchable by keyword and can be browsed by the names of individuals and organizations, titles, subjects, and repositories. Once located in FCD, a researcher can contact the repository that houses the physical collection and determine how best to access them. When items in FCD exist in online digital collections, URLs to access these materials are provided directly through the system. For repositories that hold folklore archives, FCD is a tool created to provide a standards-based approach to cataloging and describing folklore materials, and to serve as a platform for calling greater attention to their holdings. Built in accordance with the Society of American Archivists DAX content standard, FCD fields are structured around encoded archival description. We developed FCD with the goal of serving both the needs of repositories that already have described collections in accordance with standards such as EAD and MARC, and as a tool for those repositories that, due to the lack of technical resources or trained professional staff, have not yet been able to do so. All repositories participating in NFAI are provided with login credentials to the Administrative Backend of the FCD. The remaining videos in this series describe in detail how to use the Folklore Collections Database for research and cataloging. The Fcd Data Model. The Fcd Data Model is organized around 3 distinct data elements, categories of data that all relate to one another: repositories, entities, and objects. We'll review them each in turn. Repositories are defined in FCD as the organizations responsible for housing and caring for the collection materials being described in the database. The repository data element serves to capture basic information about these organizations so that this information can be easily associated with the archival collections they maintain. A detailed discussion of repositories can be found in FCD Instructional Video number 4. In the context of FCD, entities are people, events, and organizations that created, contributed to, or are referenced in the collection materials being described in the database. This data element captures information on creators and contributors to archived collections. Detailed discussion of entities is found in FCD Instructional Videos 5, 6, and 7. Objects are, simply stated, the collection materials being described in the database. The object data element allows for description of the physical materials, their systems of organization, and their intellectual content. They include such things as collections, the broader umbrella used to organize archival materials, and items, the actual stuff, as well as organizational aspects of collections, such as boxes, folders, and series. A full discussion of the aspects of the object data element is found in FCD Instructional Videos 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Thinking in these terms will help when entering data into FCD. Repository: the organizations that care for the collection being described. Entity: people, organizations, and meetings that created or contributed to the creation of archival materials. Objects: the archival materials themselves, including systems of organization and their intellectual content. Let's peek at some of the things we'll be going over in the next videos in this series, such as logging into the administrative backend of Fcd, exploring the dashboard page, and then we'll go over some of the data screens for each of the 3 data elements: repositories, entities, and objects. Let's start by logging into the administrative backend of the database. The URL for the Fcd is folklorecollections.org. To get to the login screen for the backend of the database, enter folklorecollections.org/admin. Type your username and password here and hit Login. This is the administrative landing page, the dashboard. The first thing you can see when you log into the system. Along the top, you can see a series of menus. New is where you go to create new records in the database. And note that the only new object you can create from the dashboard screen is a collection. Find is where you go to search for data you have already entered into Fcd within each of the elements. Manage addresses things related to your account and your use of the database. The NFAI menu is where you go if you want to import EAD formatted XML data or export it out of Fcd. Next to that menu is the quick search window. You can search Fcd via keyword here across all the entities. Down on the bottom of the screen in this blue footer bar, you can see who you are logged in as and, more importantly, how to log out of Fcd. Okay, now let's review some of the different kinds of data screens. Since the first element you should create before entering any data is your repository, let's start there. We'll start by searching for our test repository, the Miskatonic University Library. There's the record, and click on Edit, and that'll open it up. So this is a repository record. The NFAI identifier, the repository name, and all these fields that are associated with identifying the repository. Description, contact. On the left, you'll see this link to other data screens that are all part of the repository record, including contact info, related objects, and you can see all the collection information about related collections and items we've entered into the system. This is a summary of all the data, and then the log screen that documents all the changes that have been made to this record by users of the Fcd. Next, we'll search for an entity, and we'll look over the component parts. So we're going to search again for one of our test records, this time Wilmarth. Oh, and there's Albert Wilmarth. You can see the entity number, the display name, and then once again on the right in this screen, click Edit, and you'll be able to enter the record for the entity that is Albert Wilmarth. On the left, you saw all those options again. They're different. And then here's all the basic information that you'd enter about an entity into the system. And we'll go into more detail in a different video. Moving down, alternate names, person known by other names, contact info if you wanted to provide that, and if the person is reachable and wants to be reached, relationships. So these are all the objects in the collection that relate to Albert Wilmarth, the entity. Links, if there's a biographical link. Summary, once again. And then the log form. So now let's quickly look over an object record. We'll search for Wilmarth again to turn up any records that have references to our test entity. There we have the Albert Wilmarth field collection, a box, a folder, and an item. You'll notice this time the edit option is on the left for some reason. So let's look at the collection and look over the parts. There's the editing collection box on the left. Here's an overview of the basic info page on a collection level record. You can look at all the parts. Then on the left, you can jump to subject. So there are subjects selected for these. These are all drawn on Library of Congress subject headings and the ethnographic thesaurus. Location info. Notes and access. General notes and about access to the collection and things like that. Relationships, and you'll see here the relationships are to Wilmarth and another entity and the related repository that holds this collection. In the media page, you can upload a representative object for the collection. We can't really add item level images yet. So this is just a review of the summary here page, which includes the embedded image, and then an overview of the log, changes made to the record and by whom. So there you have a basic overview of the administrative side of FCD. In the next videos in this series, we'll be going over each of the data elements in nauseating detail, as well as reviewing importing and exporting data and searching the public-facing side of the FCD. Here we go.